Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that. I just want to start by thanking Coptic Solidarity Jubilee campaign and our congressional co-hosts today for bringing attention to one of the world's most urgent yet under-addressed human rights issues of our time, the systematic targeting of women and girls from persecuted religious minorities, a strategy that weaponizes gender to destroy entire communities. As the name of this year's conference suggests, the Yazidis are not just persecuted, we are being systematically uprooted and risk being completely erased from the very lands that have defined our identity for millennia. This is not hyperbole. It is the documented outcome of an intergenerational effort to destroy a people through forced religious conversions, sexual violence, cultural erasure, and deliberate impunity. I'm going to start by, our histories are very long in our community, so I'm going to start from 2014, the ISIS genocide, where we are today, and then into some action items from the US government. So on August 3rd, 2014, ISIS launched a genocidal campaign against the Yazidi people in Sonja. Over 400,000 Yazidis were displaced within days. 68 Yazidi shrines and temples were looted and razed. More than 5,000 men and young men were executed. Over 6,800 women and children were abducted, used as sex slaves, forced to convert, and trafficked across Syria, Turkey, and beyond. Girls as young as 9 years old were sold for $10 or a pack of cigarettes. Boys aged 5 to 15 years old were radicalized and conscripted as cubs of the caliphate. And yet, 11 years later, the wounds of the genocide remain open, because genocide doesn't end when the guns fall silent. It mutates, it entrenches, and it continues. Despite recognition from the UN, Canada, the US, the UK, the European Parliament, Yazidi suffering hasn't ended. It has only evolved. From mass killings to displacement, from abductions to legal erasure, from violence to impunity. Today, over 200,000 Yazidis remain in displacement camps across the Kurdistan Regional Government, with limited access to health care or education. Over 80% of Yazidi women and girls in these camps show signs of PTSD and trauma-related disorders. Less than 35% of Yazidis have returned to their ancestral lands in Sinjar, where competing armed groups exert territorial control. Between 1,000 and 1,200 children born from rape and ISIS captivity remain legally stateless. Iraqi law denies Yazidi mothers custody and forcibly imposes a Muslim identity on these children. It is a deliberate legal tool of erasure. The 2020 Sinjar Agreement, meant to enable return, remains unimplemented. Yazidis were excluded from its creation and remain excluded from its outcomes. The 2021 Yazidi Survivors Law promised reparations and reintegration, yet fewer than 1/3 of eligible survivors have received anything. To date, 87 mass graves have been identified and only 35 have been partially or fully exhumed. And today, most tragically, more than 2,970 Yazidis remain missing, mostly women and girls. Yazidi women and girls were specifically targeted with sexual slavery, forced impregnation, torture, conversions, and forced conversions. Survivors were held in captivity for years, often passed between ISIS fighters as property, and these crimes were not incidental. They were central to ISIS's strategy of eradicating the Yazidi identity. And yet, fewer than 40 ISIS perpetrators have been prosecuted globally. Most were charged with only terrorism, erasing systematic rape, slavery, and religious persecution from the legal record. And today, the consequences of that impunity are in full display. Ahmed Hussein al-Shara, better known as Abu Muhammad al-Julani, began in al-Qaeda, then joined ISIS, and went on to lead Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, an extremist group implicated in religious persecution. He now serves as the de facto president of Syria, appearing in photo ops in business suits, while women he helped enslave dig through mass graves for their children's bones. This is the final form of impunity, and it threatens every marginalized community still seeking justice today. The scale of this crisis demands a global action, and that is why we turn to the United States, not just as an ally, but as a country whose values have long defined the global standard for justice and accountability. The following are action items also highlighted in the report, and if you haven't got one, please do reach out to someone from the team and they'll provide it for you. So first and foremost is recovery of the missing and exhumed of the mass graves, funding Yazidi-led forensic teams in Iraq, expand ICMP support, and launch a state-led intelligence-backed international task force to locate and liberate the missing 2,970 missing Yazidi women and children. Second is ensure the implementation of the 2021 Yazidi Survivors Law, demanding full enforcement with third-party oversight, tie U.S. stabilization aid to transparent survivor-led monitoring, reform and localize the 2020 Sinjar Agreement, support a Yazidi-administered government, ensuring Yazidi representation in all peace talks and reconstruction efforts, creating a hybrid tribunal for ISIS crimes, ensuring that no individual who joined ISIS and committed and perpetrated crimes of genocide against Yazidis and other minorities gets to run free and then lead another country. Protect custody rights and end statelessness. Pressure Iraqi government and the Kurdistan regional government to recognize Yazidi maternal custody and amend personal status laws that affect Yazidis and other minorities, as you've heard from other speakers. Rebuilding destroyed cultural heritage, funding shrine and heritage sites reconstruction through U.S. Ambassador Fund and UNESCO, expanding refugee family reunification pathways for survivors who've landed in other countries to reunite with families in Iraq, and investing in mental health and community resilience. We are not just bearing witness to genocide, we are watching its aftermath solidify into permanent injustice today. This is a moment of moral clarity. The question is not whether we know what is happening. We do. The question is whether we will act. And I'll leave that with all of you. Thank you.